What's up, dudes and dudes to the internet? My name's Seth, and today we're coming back to take another look at Early Access 3 of Stellar Overload. I've got previous videos where I ended up not only having a full Let's Play series of this game, but explaining the bulk of the game mechanics way back, and then also had another video kind of highlighting the new planet that was up there. But now in Early Access 3, even though in the main story campaign of the game, you're not going to be able to have access to this new planet, that's exactly where I'm trying to head right now. And because there's no actual way to access it, it means that I gotta fly through space like a freak manually. That's where we ended up starting, was just on the main planet. So, what we're going to be talking about on this new planet, of course, we're going to be taking a look at it, but we're going to also mention about the new mechanics that they ended up adding in the patch, the biggest one being wiring and kind of like a redstone thing. But I wanted to show you that now in the creative mode, they actually have a lot more indicators to the player of the controls and stuff like that, which I think is great. I don't know if this is something that's new to Early Access 3, but it's definitely new to me since Early Access 2 for them to have all of these different controls and stuff showing up on the screen. And the codex in particular is absolutely beautiful. Like, look at this thing. It's crazy. You can read up on anything in here rather than having to actually go and resort to using a wiki, even to the point where you can take a peek and see what the torchlight ends up doing, right? So very cool that they have that. Changing, swapping different tools is also going to end up showing you, like this one kind of gives you a little bit of an indicator to show you, okay, so this is going to end up replacing, it's the block replacer. While the game isn't exactly telling us how to do it, it's kind of giving us an indication that, okay, you put something from your inventory down into the slots 1, 2, 3, or 4 in the bottom left as it's showing you to actually have the tool replace whatever block you click on with whatever you have in your supply. And then also, we're not going to get to mess with this today because we're in creative mode, but they have added a hunger meter to the game. So next to your heart will be a hunger bar. It represents the hunger level. The longer you spend without feeding, the lower it will go. Now, this is a bit of a, you know, while apparently lots of the people that have been playing this game have actually wanted this feature in the game, I personally have never been a fan of the hunger meter in Minecraft, so I don't really feel that it has its place in a game like this, but that's just my 2 cents about it. Anyways, let me get to this new planet. And if I didn't mention as well, the previous videos that I've had on this game, I'm going to put the links in the description to those so that you can check them out if you're confused about anything, because like I said, I talked about this game in a much more detail in those other videos, so coming back to it now, rather than explaining the game from the ground up, I just want to talk about the new features. There we go. So if you end up flying over to this planet and see that things aren't really loading in properly, just reload your file. Seems like generally speaking, it's not really loading in as it's supposed to, but it still is definitely a beautiful planet whenever it does actually decide to load in properly. I think it's really neat how they've developed all of these planets to generate very differently than one another. Like this area in particular, you know, the surface area is going to be piping hot, full of bone structures and stuff like that, different resources, while down in the canyons it's going to be a little bit more of a lush environment and kind of you know, a lot more plant life down there and stuff. Very cool. So outside of the new beautiful planet, there also is a bunch of different items and resources that are a part of the game. First of all, the biggest one is going to be the wiring, which let me see if I can. I'm going to just give a quick summary as to how the wiring ends up working, but I'm not really going to be doing too much with it just because I've had the game crash on me multiple times. So if we take this right here, this is a wall socket, right? And then there's also going to end up being, like on switches, you're going to end up having an output coming out, and then you're also going to end up having power to manage. So you have to manage both power and the switch and lever itself, right? And both of these are going to end up being outputs, and you can kind of see that this, you wouldn't think so, but it's actually important, is the different outlets, right? So for this one that I'm going to put down right here, now each of these, I wish I could just, can I have an empty hand, please? There we go. So with this right here, this is the switch. you see that the output is actually blue. That's because you have to connect it into an input that is blue. And then with the electricity, you have to have an output that is white go into an input that is white. And then you kind of use those systems to set things up to properly end up connecting and actually working, right? The wiring in general I find to be a little bit kind of messes up a little bit. Generally speaking, I seem like I have a pretty hard time trying to get the wall outlet to end up working properly. Like, there we go. Now we've actually got them both working, and as far as I can tell, you gotta I don't know whether or not you have to have both of these connect to the outlet or something. I'm still not entirely sure about how the system works in general, but you know, and I'm sorry about that, because like I said, I tried to actually get the hang of it, but I kept having the game crash on me. So at the least, we will talk a little bit more about this right here, which is actually a new vehicle type, and it's a tram thing, right? So this is actually the vehicle itself. So you can build whatever you want on this right here, and that's going to end up being your platform for your train. Now, as you can see, it takes an electric output and also, or that's the electric one, and then a lever output. Now, you gotta have both of those either on the tram itself so that you can end up activating it and it's gonna end up rolling with you. You can kind of make out, like, you can kind of just see in general the pictures that are all over the screen are gonna kind of explain how all the outlets and electricity and all that stuff ends up working, so that you can use, like right here, you can see that you have to actually have, oh, okay, so never mind, I got that wrong. The wires don't connect here. You have to have both the electricity and the switch end up connecting to whatever object you want to end up having power. There you go. Because you can see with the picture in the top right, it's actually showing an example of both electricity and a switch going into a laser, so that you would end up being able to flick the switch and actually activate them. This also ends up working for doors and the like as well. This obviously would make the game step up to a whole other level as far as dungeon design and stuff like that is concerned. And another thing too, while we're in creative mode, I should point out, is that you can actually build stuff in creative mode, and then you can have that world save as a normal, like, just as a normal world that other people can actually download and join and stuff like that. So you could actually customize and make your own dungeon, and then have players, you know, using the Steam Workshop, or just to end up joining you through your game, just kind of join, have fun, and play around with it, right? So very, very cool. Always supportive of the direction that this game is going. You know, while I don't necessarily main this game on the channel, and that's where I'm not really, I'll admit that I'm not the best outlet for information on this game, but most of all, I'm doing videos on this game because I want it to get as much exposure as possible, because the design of the game is phenomenal. I love the direction that they're going in, where they can end up accepting things that the community makes, thus making their workload much easier, and thus allowing the development time of this game to run that much smoother. But anyways, this is the hook blade. This is the highlight of the update for me, because we got a grappling hook. Woo! It's so cool. And not only that, it doubles as a melee weapon as well, which is really, really awesome, but makes climbing and messing around like that much easier. Like, oh man, it's so cool messing around with this thing. You can swing around like Spider-Man, and it's just a lot of fun, you know? I'm still not entirely used to it by any means. Oh no, I'm drowning! Oh, barg! Whoopsie daisy, I'm swinging around all over the place like a freak. I don't know how to do this at all. It's just a lot of fun because it's a grappling hook. I like how the environment's actually very different down here. Ooh, we've got animating particles as well. Very interesting for sure. Let me double check and see if there was anything else worth highlighting here. The monorail, sorry that I can't actually get it to work. It just kept crashing for me for the life of me. I think also the update does mention, it's not exactly clear about it, but I think that in the main campaign, the big last dungeon on the starting planet, I think they actually removed that for a different dungeon. Near as I can tell, because it says, here's the true dungeon of Merx, robots have taken over, blah, 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 and then it says at the end, do not look for the old fortress, we erased it from the game. I don't know if that means like the full-on big fortress that was a lag fest, cool area, but still very, you know, it didn't really work that well. So maybe that's what they ended up replacing it with, was this other dungeon, or they're talking about just one of the minor dungeons, which is called the fortress. I don't exactly know, but the biggest thing is the fact that you can end up sharing the universes and sharing your worlds and stuff like that, because up to this point you could only end up sharing your creations with other players, and now you can actually share like your full-on worlds, so you can actually have like a highlight of all of your greatest builds and stuff like that and share it with the community, which is always awesome. But anyways, that's pretty much all there really is to it. I'll put a link in the description to the bigger bulk patch notes, but this was pretty much the biggest points that they decided to highlight and that I thought was worth mentioning as well. You know, the grappling blade is a lot of fun. Sorry we couldn't end up messing that much with the new monorail vehicle system here. And in general, I apologize for my general lack of knowledge when it comes to the wiring and stuff like that. Honestly speaking, I don't really have the extra time to mess with it as much as I would like. But, you know, the in-game pictures do a decent job being very simple to explain something very complex. So I'm sure if you mess around with it, you can get the hang of it. And of course, obviously, there's going to be links in the description to where you can end up picking this game up for yourself. I still highly recommend it. You know, there's not really that much content as far as the game is concerned. If you don't really want to get into the creative aspect of it, there is a main story mode quest where you can go through a bunch of quest lines and stuff like that. That'll actually take a couple hours. And then once you end up getting past the first planet, you'll warp to the second one. And they haven't developed any quests up to that point, near as I can tell. But they have this planet already and stuff, so I don't know if they're going to be focusing on just developing more of the planets and then the story mode comes later. But either way, you know, once they definitely add a bunch of content that actually makes it worth replaying through the story, you can definitely expect to see me start a new series of this game on the channel. In any case, thanks so much for watching, everybody. Very much appreciate it. And I would also appreciate if you would hit that like button, share, favorite, and subscribe for more daily content. Sign on, stay epic, everybody.